Getting ready for senior year. So we're going to talk a little bit about post-secondary planning. We're going to talk about some different pieces of academics and testing. We're going to talk about applications, and then we'll talk about just kind of like some final thoughts as far as scholarships and like involvement in activities. Okay, let's start with talking a little bit about post-secondary planning. As a junior, it's really important to be thinking kind of what you're going to do after high school, right? And so I've divided it kind of into four categories. So category one is your traditional college or university. So this could be going straight to a four-year, like Sac State or UC Davis, or this could be starting at a community college and transferring to a four-year. Either way, that's kind of your traditional continuing your education route. And I'll talk more about that later. If you hear me pausing, it's because I'm trying to give the interpreters time. Um, the next option that I listed on here is a technical school, is technical training or trade school. So these are typically your more hands-on skilled careers. So like welding, HVAC, auto, anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And it's usually more focused on getting job certifications and then starting work than like a deeper breadth of education. So this might be going to beauty school. This might be, um, like I said, auto or HVAC. The next option I have is entering the workforce. We have a good number of students in Twin Rivers who, right after high school, they get a job. Maybe it's a gap year, maybe they're saving, whatever that looks like. That's an option too. This could be, those students who are really looking for immediate income, maybe for themselves or supporting their family. And then they'll be getting on the job training without any needs for additional schooling. And then the last option that I've listed on here is joining the military. Joining the military after high school, they need to have a high school diploma or a GED. They need to take the ASVAB, which is a aptitude exam for military careers, and then they'll need to pass a physical exam. The main branches are the Navy, the Army, the Marines, and the Air Force, but there's also the National Guard, Space Force, other things like that. For I'm going to talk a little bit more about college and university, but for technical and training schools, it's important to start thinking about it now so that they can look at the programs that they would want to go to and see if there's any steps they need to do before. Getting a job, it's just good to know that that's what they want to do so that they can start researching like how to make sure they have a professional resume, what transferable skills they have, that sort of thing. And then joining the military, it's really important to start talking to the recruiter so that they know what's required of them, when they should take the ASVAB, all of that sort of thing. Any questions so far on kind of thinking about after high school?
So I know it's not for technical school, but like for the colleges, when do you start like applying and looking for them? If
A
that is your
great
target.
question. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in some coming slides, but I'll give kind of a brief overview. So, like, specifically for the technical and trade schools, like, you're probably looking at a similar timeline to colleges. It could vary depending on what program they're doing. For your traditional college and universities, if you're thinking of going straight to a 4 year like UC Davis or Sac State, applications are going to open in August. So that's why I think it's important for juniors to be thinking about things during the summer so that they can start on their rough drafts. If they're planning to start at a community college, then they're going to be doing their applications in February and March. So that's the short answer. I'll touch a little bit more on it in the future, and then you can follow up if you have another clarifying question.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay. So I know it feels so heavy, right? Sometimes for our students, I'll be meeting with them and I'll say, tell me what you want to study in college. They're like, I have no idea. Like that is totally fine. So I just wanted to kind of talk about a few tools that they can use to help them maybe figure out their plan. So we have a website called californiacolleges.edu. And it has a bunch of different personal inventories that they can do. So there's an interest inventory, there's a work values inventory, and there's one more, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but kind of one of those where you answer a ton of questions and at the end it'll give you some ideas. And so I tell the students, like, take this with, you know, do it, complete it just for interest, but don't feel like you have to do that career just because it tells you, right? It's one size fits all, a guided pathway. Not everyone is going to get results that they like, but it gives them a good starting off point. So on California colleges, if they do this tool, afterwards, it'll tell them a little bit about themselves, right? Like either their personalities or their work values. And then it'll actually guide them into some suggested careers. And then from there, they can start thinking about major mapping. So that's like, okay, I did this. Here's all this stuff about me. And maybe, for example, when I took it, because I did it a few months ago just for fun, fun, shocking, but it said I should work in education. So there were a bunch of options for careers. So like teacher, counselor, social worker. And so I can then, the students can then click on the career, learn about it. What's the average salary? What's the job outlook looking like in the next 5 years? And then it'll also tell them what the education requirement is. So like sometimes I'm talking to a kid and they're telling me how they're really interested in being a doctor. And I'm like, okay, do you know what the educational, journey looks like for that? And they have no idea. And so then I tell them, well, you're going to need to get a 4 year degree. Then you're going to need to go to medical school. Then you're going to need to do your residency. Then you're going to do a fellowship and then you'll be a doctor. And they're like shocked, right? Because they hadn't really researched what it takes to be a doctor. So this major mapping kind of, you can start with that inventory and then research some careers, see what education's required, and then kind of map out what their education journey is going to look like. And then I also would suggest, either reading some blogs online about, by professionals in that field of interest or trying to talk to some of them so that they can see kind of what their days look like and if it's really something that might interest the student. Highly recommend this at any grade level, but especially for those juniors who are feeling a little bit unsure about what their path after high school looks like. This is a really great kind of progression to go through. Okay, so then you've gone through that, and I want to talk kind of a little bit more about the college pathway because joining the workforce and joining the military, pretty straightforward. But colleges is where you can kind of get lost in the hubbub of it all. So finding the best fit, again, you can use California colleges to find colleges that have the major that will work for the student. And that means like not just choosing a college because of its name, right? Everyone knows UCLA, everyone knows UC Berkeley, but certain majors, those might not be the best fit. So using the college search tools to figure out which colleges have really good programs for their major is going to be really important. You can use the CSU match, and I'll show you guys right here what this looks like. So the UCs and CSUs are our two biggest state school systems, or our two state school systems. What you can do is enter majors. So like let's say I know engineering is really popular right now. So let's go to maybe civil engineering. So let's say they know they want to do civil engineering. Let's see what our options are. So you can see here, Chico has civil engineering, East Bay, Fullerton, Long Beach, all of these, right? All of these would be great options. You can see here Sac State. And then you can filter it down even more. Maybe they want to stay in Northern California. Okay, now I know there's five. Or maybe they know they want to move to Southern California. There's six. If they want to live in a major city, they can narrow it down that way. Some of our kids like a big school where they feel like they can get lost, and some of them really want a small one. So you can kind of filter by size. I mean, most of our CSUs are at least 10,000 and over, but there are some smaller ones. And then let's say, okay, they're like, you know what? I'm really interested in Cal Poly. I chose that because I went there. Big fan. Um, they can then learn more about the university. So if they click on more information, here you can see campus enrollment, 22,000. They can see kind of some ideas of what it looks like. And then you can actually see admission statistics. So you can see the average GPA, average high school GPA of the applicants is a 4.01. The average admitted is a 4.08 to 4.25. So that's a fairly competitive CSU. You can see that they had 54,000 applicants in the 25-26, and they offered admission to 18,000. So we're talking, a pretty small or a tighter acceptance rate. And so yeah, they can continue to research other stuff, academics, cost of attendance, student life, dorms, etc. So again, like finding a college is more than just picking a college that they've heard of. It's finding the best match for you. So I highly recommend the CSU Campus Match. And then the UC has a similar website where you can learn about acceptance rates. So like UC Davis, for example, this is our closest one. You can see that they have a 44.6% admit rate. And then you can see that the average GPA is a 4.0 to a 4.26. So if your student has a 3.0, that's going to be a reach school for them, right? They're going to really need to nail their essays to be a good candidate for, and again, not to say it's impossible because the UCs have a much more complicated system for admissions, but if their average GPA is significantly different, that's something to just take note of. And then you can also use a similar major search tool. So, let's say another really common one is people who want to be doctors. So a lot of them will study biology. Oh. And then you can see, oh, let me try biological sciences. Well, maybe let's search without a major. This is not
So
working how I thought it would.
I have a quick question.
Go
Is
ahead.
it harder to pick what school you go to if you don't know what you want to do? My
Oh,
son
that's a
wants
good
to
question.
he wants to go to a 4 year, but he is absolutely indecisive
Hmm.
about where he wants to go. But I'm wondering, could he pick a college just off of saying, hey, let me go in, get my general education started, and maybe by sophomore year, I'll have my major picked out? Is that possible?
Yes, I would say that's super, super common. Like, it's few and far, but it's not the most common thing where students are like, I absolutely know what I want to do, right? Um, so yeah, kind of what I was saying would speak to those kids who absolutely know what they want to major in. If they don't know what they want to major in, what I will usually tell students is think about the other factors that are important to them, right? Do they want a small campus? Do they want to live in the middle of a city? Do they want to live near the ocean? Are they looking to be in Greek life? That sort of thing, right? Because there's other ways that you can narrow down colleges other than major. And so I would say, in the circumstance of your child, it's going to be considering all of those other factors. Because if they're like, you know what, maybe you guys live in like rural Rio Linda or something, and he's like, your kid's like, I love living in this country sort of feel, but near a city, right? They don't want, that means they're not going to want to go to like UCLA, which is in the middle of a city, right? They might be more likely to enjoy UC Davis or UC Santa Barbara that has that kind of smaller beachy feel. So I would say considering the other factors, if they don't know what they want to study, is going to help them narrow it down.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes totally sense because I'm just like been for like the
Yeah.
last year, like, oh my God, what do I do? How can I help him? Because it's just like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go? He loves animals, but he doesn't want to do that. So it's just like, well, what do you want to do?
Mhm. And I would say, like, don't stress them out about that. I don't like to stress them out about, I'm like, I ask them usually in a joking way. I'm like, oh, like, do you know what you want to do? I'm like, I know that's a heavy question. Totally fine if you don't, because I don't want them to feel like this level of pressure. Because in college, most colleges, they're going to figure out their interest based on things they get involved in, right? Their general ed, maybe they go to some lecture series, whatever. The only college that I would really steer them away from if they don't know what they want to do is going to be, unfortunately, Cal Poly, because you do declare your major going in. And it's
Okay.
really hard to change your major. So kind of researching that might be good, but most other colleges, based on what I've done from my research this year, is all other colleges you can go in undeclared.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they'll be totally fine. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. So yeah, thinking about the fit, like I said, if the kid knows or if your student knows what they're interested in, you can use that to narrow down your college in that example that we just talked about. If they don't know, then narrowing it down by those other factors. So, small town, big town, beach. Do they want to be close to home? Sac State is a great option. UC Davis, fantastic option, both super close to our area. Maybe they don't want to stay close to home, then they can go farther away. Another thing to consider is like the financial aspect. If you're low income, then you'll get financial aid. If you're in that middle ground, like some colleges are going to be less affordable. Chico State is the most affordable CSU. Cal Poly is the most expensive CSU. So unfortunately, finances do come into play a little bit. So that's another good thing to kind of keep in mind. Um, okay. Building a balanced list. I think this is really important too. Juniors should be thinking about college their junior year, but going into senior year by September, students should have like if they're planning to go to college, they should have an idea of where they want to apply. So we typically will categorize colleges on our list into three different categories. So safety, target, and then reach. Safety schools, these are colleges where the student's academic profile is well above the average for admitted students. These are schools where we are 99% sure that the student is going to be accepted. And for most of our students, Sac State is a really, really good safety school. It's our local CSU. And so pretty much any student who meets the minimum requirements is going to be accepted to Sac State. Um, it would be good to have one or two safety schools on their list. And some of this might be a financial safety school. So, an example is 2 years ago, we had a student who knew that they wanted to go to this engineering school in Ohio. They applied, they didn't apply to any state schools in California. They got accepted, they were super excited about going. But then when they got their financial aid back, financially, the family could not afford that school. And since he hadn't applied to any safety schools, he didn't have any other options. So that's why I say maybe a financial safety school. Because maybe your student thinks they're pretty likely to get into UC Davis, but UC Davis is like triple the cost of Sac State. So just something to consider in making your list of safety schools. A target, these are our match schools. So these are schools where the GPA and the extracurriculars align really closely with a typical admitted student. So they're a competitive applicant. It's a good fit for their goals. Um, they align pretty decently with the average student who gets accepted. You should have a good number of these on your list. This should be kind of like the bulk of your list. And then the other category is your reaches or your dream schools. They could be highly selective or have average academic statistics that are slightly higher than the students. Admission is maybe less certain, but definitely worth a shot if the student is really, really passionate about the program. So for example, maybe the student has an average GPA of a 3.8, but is a really strong writer and has lots of extracurriculars. And they might apply to UCLA. That could be a reach because the average GPA at UCLA is higher. But since the UC system reviews the applications holistically, the other stuff could make up for some of the average statistics being slightly lower. And then the last one, I kind of touched on this a little in the last slide, but just a reminder, like a professional fit. Does the school have strong ties to industries? Geographic proximity to jobs could be a hidden advantage because you could network with people in that area. So, any questions on building a balanced college list?
No, just trying to figure out how to get to the difference. I got to I think the CSU sites, but I
Hmm.
was still trying to figure out how to get to the UC and look for is that the University of California? Is this ones?
Yes. Yes, it
Okay.
is.
How to
Hmm.
apply? I was trying to campus and majors. Okay.
Yep.
I was like, man, where
Perfect.
did it go? I
Yeah.
have like several
And
tabs open.
I have more than several tabs open,
Yeah.
so I can relate.
I've like
Um, Go ahead.
Oh, well, it's just I know what my daughter already wants. She's been doing dance for the
Oh,
last three
very
years
cool.
in school, and she wants to do dance. And she was
I love
thinking of
that.
doing like dance and then like actual physical arts, like painting, stuff like that. But her major is dance.
I love that.
She's
That's super cool.
so
So it'd be good to look and see which CSUs and UCs
these
have
off
dance as a major.
major, yeah, either dance or
Exactly.
dance performance. She's like, we've been doing this for years and years. It started with me buying her Just Dance when like
Hmm.
she was 7 and she hasn't stopped since. So
Love
uh,
it.
that's the easy part. Just trying to figure out where we can send her, the best place we can send her and how much it's going to cost. And that's the part that's
Yep.
I need. It's like, okay, we already got her major. We just need to know where to send her.
That'll be that next step. Yeah. So I would say encouraging your student to make a list of 8 to 10 schools on their list with a variety of safety, target, and reach schools for that kind of varied list. Okay, let's talk a little bit about academics and testing. We talk about A through G all the time, but A through G requirements are certain classes that students need to take to be eligible to even apply to colleges in California. So I highly recommend juniors be looking at Aries or California colleges. It's either the college entrance requirements page in Aries or the UC-CSU eligibility in California colleges so that they can see if they are on track to meet A through G requirements. It's 7 different classes, 7 different subjects with different year requirements in each one. Students need to get a C or better in in these classes. And the California Colleges report is really easy to read. So I would highly recommend that. Um, I'm just
Most
remembering
of them
now,
is
sorry.
most of them are still the basic stuff, English, math, history, science,
Yep,
PE, that they've got to complete so many years. Usually 4 years of English, 3 years of science, 3 years of math, 2 years of PE. You know, it hasn't changed since I was in school. So If we could just, you just got to teach the kids that no, you just have to take it.
Yeah. Sorry, I just remembered I did miss a few questions in the chat. I saw both of them about dual enrollment. Um, Great question. It's something that, as someone who works a lot with the dual enrollment, I try to talk to the students about so that they kind of understand where their college classes are going to be going when they go to community college. So a couple things, right? One, earning an AA in high school does not guarantee anything in college, right? Um, Unless it's specifically a transferable associate degree in the major that they're interested in. So I would say the major boost or major like thing for a lot of our students who are earning the associate degrees is the honors points that it gives them in their applications for UCs and CSUs. And then also we do try to map their courses out really well. So once they get to the college, they will have met the majority of their or a
Basics.
lot of their general education courses.
Yeah.
But we do also try to explain to the students that it's really important. Like, let's say they're going to major in biology, it's important to have some general education courses or pick up a minor because you don't want to be taking five heavy science classes every semester. Those GEs, those other classes are good fillers so that they don't get overwhelmed. And so for my students who are like completing associate degrees in social science, but then they're planning to go on and study biology and become a doctor or an engineer, because we have a lot of these students, I tell them like plan on picking up a minor. If you speak Spanish, pick up a Spanish minor. If you're interested in psychology, pick up a psychology minor because those are going to be the classes that they can fill in their schedule with so that they do not overwhelm themselves with their core subjects.
Yeah.
So it's going to just give them a boost, an extra thing to write about, extra things they can put on their academic resume or like on their application saying that they've earned an associate degree. And then it is going to give them, credits at the college that they go to, so
Yeah. So
that
they don't have
they
to take the
can,
same thing again.
yes, correct. And additionally, it's important that they pay close attention to where they need to list the college courses on the application because they'll be listing them under a college and not under the high school. Let me know if you have further questions on that. Okay. Making sure students are meeting A through G, meeting with their counselor. If your student has not met with their counselor as a junior, I highly recommend emailing them and scheduling a time to meet with them just to talk about senior classes, to talk about college, career, military, and to see if they're on track for graduation and or A through G. And then the other thing is summer school. If students are not on track for graduation or for summer school, or sorry, on track for graduation or A through G, summer school is the perfect time to make up courses so that they don't have to do it their senior year when they should be having fun and focusing on their senior classes. It's nice to get it out of the way during the summer. And so they can do that and they can get information on summer school from their high school counselors. I also wanted to talk a little bit about standardized testing for students. So the SAT and the ACT are no longer required for any UCs or CSUs. However, students can still take them, and the UCs and CSUs will use them for placement. So they will not use it in the admissions process, but they will use it to give them a math and an English placement their freshman year. Um, the other reason it's important for students to start researching colleges is so that they figure out if they're interested in applying to any colleges that do require the SAT or the ACT, because a lot of private universities have gone back to requiring it. So by June, they should be thinking about studying. They should be identifying if they want to take the SAT or the ACT. Most students who take the ACT choose it because it has a science section. And so students who feel they're strong in science will tend towards taking the ACT. Over the summer, they should be studying, and then in August, they should be taking the exam. We do offer school day SATs. I can't remember when we offered it, but registrations fill up very quickly. So I recommend if your student is planning to take the SAT, looking for those spots now, and you can ask for waiver codes from counselors. And then October is typically the last date that they can take the SAT or ACT and still have exam scores meet or reach the colleges in time for application deadlines. Any questions on ACT, SAT?
So they don't have to take them anymore, but they can take them as a placement so they, for whatever college they want to go to. If they place high enough in that, they can use it for like whatever English 101 to get into the whatever regular English class.
Yep. They
Heck,
just
we
use it for
used
placement now, not for admissions. Correct.
well,
Anyone
that's
else have
good.
any questions?
Sorry, the SAT is required for 11th grade or for 12th
It's
grade.
not required, no.
Not
Just
anymore.
some colleges
I
require
understand
it.
that some college they require for 11th
Mhm.
grade.
They should take it in either like the spring of their 11th grade or in the fall of their 12th grade, like August.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's talk a little bit about applications. So the CSUs are great, easiest application. They just have to fill in all of their academic and personal information. However, there are other colleges that do require essays, and as the UC calls them, PIQs. So there are a good number of schools that use what's called the Common App. These are mostly our private schools, so like Stanford, USC, different schools like that will use the Common App. I highly recommend they create their account in the summer and start looking at colleges that they want to apply to on there and looking at the essays that they might need to draft because there could be different essays or multiple essays. So it's good to start earlier rather than later. The UCs use what's called PIQs, personal insight questions. They're provided with a list of 8 of them, and they need to choose 4 to answer. And they have 350 words to answer each question. There's a lot of really good resources, and I'll have a slide on that later for insight questions. But I highly recommend that students start sooner rather than later, and then have people review them. That's really important. And then kind of making a list of extracurriculars that they're involved in because there's going to be spots on their applications to put in any leadership roles they've had and also volunteer work that they do because there's going to be space for that on their applications as well. So it's good to have that kind of set up on a list somewhere for them to enter. Okay, like I said, I just wanted to go through each of the systems. So CSU admissions, pretty straightforward. They need to complete A through G. They need a 2.5 minimum, no standardized test scores, no essays. It's one application. They can send it to any of the campuses, and they can launch this through California colleges. These open typically in the beginning of August. They can start applying. Here's some CSU resources, admission handbook. They can start submitting their applications October 1st. They can start it before, they just can't submit it until October 1st. And then here's some information on A through G and what the requirements are, as well as some different information about the CSUs. UC admissions, same thing, completion of A through G, minimum GPA of 3.0, no standardized test scores, but they do need to do those 4 personal insight questions. Same thing with CSU, one application. You can send it to all 9 campuses. They can launch this through the California College's website as well. June is not necessarily too soon to take it if they've been studying or if they just want to take it in June, see how they do, and then retake it later. That's a good option as well. And they still have, a month, so they could study. You could use Khan Academy or College Board has some study tools on their website. Here's some UC resources. Here's some really, really great application advice, like a blog and a website. And then here's their admissions guide. Here's their A through G information. And then similarly, they will start accepting applications October 1st through Thanksgiving week, typically. All right, California community colleges. This is another great opportunity for our students who either maybe high school didn't go great for them and they need a fresh start. Community college is a great start, is a great spot to kind of get a fresh start with grades and classes before transferring. It's also a great way to save money. Plenty of, I think the coolest thing about community colleges in California is like half of the professors teach at, like half the professors at American River College also teach at Sac State. Or you can, I saw some people down south who are like, my teacher, my community college teacher teaches at USC. So it's super cool. You're getting the same professors, great education. And then when you transfer, you get the same degree as anyone else. No minimum GPA, no standardized test scores, no essays. Anyone who applies is accepted. It's not even really like an application, it's just a get started. Um, and they should start applying in February. The California Promise Grant waives enrollment fees for eligible students, so it doesn't cost them anything. It does have an income limit. And then if your family is above the income limit for the California Promise, then the students will qualify for the Los Rios Promise, which will also cover their enrollment fees. So, very cost effective way to get started on their educational journey. Okay. Common App, I mentioned this earlier. More than 1,000 schools use the Common App. Students will need their transcript, activities, test scores, parent guardian information, all that good stuff. A lot of Common App schools require either a counselor or a teacher recommendation. So it's good to think about who they might request that from if they are applying to any Common App schools. Here's some Common App resources, a list of the colleges, some college prep checklists. These are super useful. Let me show you guys the 12th grade one because I do really like these. So it'll tell you like in the fall, make sure you're on track to graduate and fulfill college admissions requirements. Finalize your college list. That's what we just talked about. Register for standardized tests. Fill out and submit college applications. Financial aid, review your acceptances, work hard, maintain your grades, and then celebrate, right? So kind of just a general list of what to do. And then you can also look at the 11th grade one. This one is great too. Initial list, study, prepare for exams, plan your senior schedules, find your recommenders, meaningful summer plans, and visit college campuses, right? So I like a few, I like a few checklists for students to look at. Okay, this is kind of the last part, and then we'll be open to any other questions that you guys might have. But I just wanted to touch a little bit on involvement in scholarships. And you saw it in that checklist. It said a meaningful summer experience. So 11th graders should be thinking about like what they're doing with their summer before senior year. Are they working? Great. Are they getting an internship? Are they attending like a college program? Are they volunteering? Like, what are they doing during the summer that could be beneficial? And even outside of that, it could be going to summer school and making up courses that they need, taking a college class, right? Those are all meaningful experiences. And then doing some volunteer work, consistent service with a local organization, looks really good and is honestly just a great way for students to be involved. And also they can list it on their college applications. And then the last piece that is really important is to start thinking about how you're going to pay for college. I know money can be awkward, but it never hurts to have a conversation with your student about what you can afford, right? If it's, hey, I think we're going to get a lot of financial aid, but a CSU is more in our ballpark, or hey, we have been putting money away for you to go to college, so you can go anywhere. Um, and then the other thing is starting to research scholarships so that they can help subsidize the cost of their own college, or cover room and board, or buying a new computer because they've had a Chromebook all of high school, whatever. So a couple resources here, the trusd.net/scholarships. Here you can just read a little bit about scholarships. And here's a bunch of different search engines that they can use online. There are scholarships specifically for undocumented students. There are scholarships specifically for foster youth. There are scholarships for people over 6 foot. There are scholarships for people of Italian descent, right? There are scholarships for everything. You just have to find it. The money is out there. And then the other thing that I maintain is a district-wide scholarship spreadsheet. Um, you can see on here how many days left, the name of the scholarship with a link, when it's due, how much it is, if I had the information, and then qualifications. Um, you can see on here, there were a few for juniors, but starting in July, we'll probably start seeing or maybe more in August, we'll start seeing more and more scholarships reopen for next year. These are current senior scholarships, but I will update this for next year when we get there. So I highly encourage students. I mean, scholarships are a numbers game. You can't get any scholarships if you're not applying to any scholarships. So they should apply to the more scholarships, the better for them to get money for college. I'm happy to respond to inquiries, but you can also reach out to your high school specific counselors to find out kind of what support and workshops are offered at that site, or to get specific information about your student. That's the information on their counseling website, or their counselor. That's the end of my presentation. I am now going to give you guys some time if anyone else has questions or could be related, unrelated, if I didn't touch on anything. But this is that's the getting ready for senior year.
Okay.